Assalamualaikum and hi everyone. My name is Nurin Akila Shazana binti Rozani and my ID number is SIT 24110014. In this presentation, I will answer the question, define inflation and describe its main type of inflation. I will explain what inflation means and then I will describe two main types of inflation with example, demand pull inflation and cost push inflation, especially in the context of Malaysia's economy in 2025. Okay, define inflation. Inflation is the rate at which the general prices of goods and services increase over time, causing the value of money to fall. In simple terms, this means the same amount of money buys less than before. As shown in the visual, in 2023, a meal cost RM8, but in 2024, it rose to RM10, and in 2025, it is expected to reach RM12. This shows how inflation reduced purchasing power over time. For example, if a meal used to cost RM8 but now costs RM10 and RM12, that's inflation. It affects everyone, especially low-income families, because their daily expenses increase even if their salary stays the same. Inflation is a normal part of any growing economy, but when it rises too fast or becomes unpredictable, it can hurt both consumers and businesses. Main type of inflation. There are many types of inflation, but I will focus on the two most important ones, which is demand pull inflation and cost push inflation. Demand pull inflation. Demand pull inflation happens when over demand is an economy is higher than the available supply, causing prices to rise. Based on the Sun Daily 2024 article, although demand pull inflation is not the main driver of inflation in Malaysia's 2025 outlook, improving economic conditions may support private consumption. This means more people are spending money, especially during seasonal periods like Hari Raya or back-to-school months. When demand increases but supply cannot keep up, like during busy shopping periods, price may rise. This is a mild form of demand pull inflation, which may still play a role in Malaysia's overall inflation rate in 2025. Next is cost push inflation, which happens when the cost of production increases and businesses pass this cost to consumers through higher prices. This can be caused by rising fuel price, wage increases, or raw material shortage. According to the Sun Daily article, a key factor contributing to inflation in Malaysia in 2025 is the rationalization of fuel subsidies, especially the floating of diesel prices. When diesel prices increase, transport costs also go up. For example, trucks transporting groceries or vegetables will cost more to run, and that cost is added to the final price paid by consumer. So, even if demand remains the same, prices rise due to higher supply costs. This is a clear example of cost push inflation currently affecting Malaysia. To conclude, inflation refers to the rise in prices over time and affect what we can buy with our money. The two main types I have described are demand pull inflation, which is caused by stronger consumer demand, and cost push inflation, which results from rising production costs. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Arnalisa Najwa binti Abdul Rahman, SIT 24110127. Today, I'll explain how the government collects price data for the Consumer Price Index or CPI and how it's used to measure inflation. CPI is a key economic tool that helps us understand how prices change over time and how that affects our cost of living. First, the government creates a CPI basket, a collection of goods and services that reflect what the average consumer buys. This includes everyday items like food, petrol, clothes, rent, electricity, even movie tickets and healthcare. The items are chosen based on national household surveys where thousands of families report their spending habits. Next, government statisticians collect the price of these items every month. They visit supermarkets, local shops, service centers, and online platforms in different parts of the country, both urban and rural. In Malaysia, for example, the Department of Statistics collects price for over 500 items in more than 1,000 locations. Each item in the basket isn't equal. Some have more impact than others. That's where weighting comes in. For example, food and housing get higher rates because we spend more on them, while things like books or toys might get lower rates. The CPI is calculated by comparing the cost of the basket this year to the cost in the past year. Here's the formula: CPI equal cost of basket this year divide cost in past year multiply 100. To measure inflation, we simply calculate the percentage change in CPI over time. If CPI increases, that means inflation, prices are rising. If it stays flat or decreases, that means prices are stable or falling. So why does this matter? CPI and inflation data are essential for making economic decisions. Governments use it to adjust wages and subsidies. Central banks use it to set interest rates, and we, the public, use it to understand how our money is affected over time. In short, CPI helps keep our economy in check and our daily life affordable. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum and hello to everyone, especially to Madam Razia. I'm Aisha Batusha binti Modi and my ID number is 24110003. Today I will be discussing how inflation impacts individuals, society welfare and the standard of living in Malaysia. Inflation affects individuals and society in several ways. As mentioned in the article, certain items in Malaysia experienced high inflation in the quarter of 2024, such as diesel 20.1% and the vehicle insurance 0.8%. This means that individuals and businesses using these services have to spend more, which reduces their income and purchasing power. When prices of essential items like food, petrol and electricity increase, people especially from low and middle income groups struggle more. For example, a single mother who already has education and car loans now has to spend more on groceries. This forces her to use emergency savings for daily needs. Over time, this lowers her financial stability and affects overall society welfare. This can reduce the standard of living. Inflation also causes individuals to face more daily inflation. Rapid rental costs, rising food prices, and the burden of loan debts make it even difficult for them to meet the end meet. Let's say a person is already paying high rent and food prices. If petrol costs also rise, they might not have enough money for healthcare or their children's education. Low-income households especially feel this pressure as inflation pushes them into deeper financial struggles. Inflation reduces the standard of living in Malaysia because people have to spend more on basic needs. For example, if cooking oil prices increase, a family might not be able to buy the same amount as before. This leaves less money for other needs. Their quality of life goes down because they can afford the same level of comfort and security as before. That's all from me, thank you. Assalamualaikum and hi to Madam Rozia. My name is Eli Shazwan Irina binti Edi Rizwan, SIT 241100095. Today, I will be presenting the topic with supporting data, explain the policy measures the government agencies or non-governmental organization NGOs that could be effective in controlling rising inflation in Malaysia based on the article. Implementation of targeted fuel subsidies. Firstly, the government implemented targeted fuel subsidies in June 2024 through cash transfers and fleet cards for eligible groups. This strategic move aimed to reduce fiscal pressure without triggering major inflationary effects. Even though the subsidies were reduced, the consumer price index remained unchanged at 1.9% in Q1 2025. This clearly demonstrates that a well-designed targeted subsidy policy can effectively contain inflation without compromising fiscal stability. Expansion of the Sales and Services Tax (SST). Secondly, under Budget 2025, the SST was expanded to cover more goods and services in order to boost government revenue. Although this expansion may slightly increase costs, Bank Negara Malaysia anticipates a minimal impact on inflation as the implementation is being done progressively. Furthermore, Bank Negara Malaysia projects overall inflation to remain between 2.0% to 3.5% and core inflation at 1.5% to 2.5%, reflecting confidence in the policy's balance between growth and price stability. Supportive monetary policy by Bank Negara Malaysia. Thirdly, Bank Negara Malaysia also took monetary actions to support economic growth. Specifically, they maintained the overnight policy rate OPR at 3.00% and reduced the statutory reserve requirement SRR by 1%, injecting RM19 billion into the financial system. As a result, this provides liquidity to the market and helps sustain domestic demand without pushing inflation too high. In short, it shows Bank Negara Malaysia confidence in managing inflation while still being accommodative to local economic activities. Structural reforms to boost productivity. Lastly, long-term structural reforms are being pursued to enhance supply chain efficiency, labor productivity, and food security. These efforts include strategic investment in digital infrastructure, agriculture, and logistics to lower production costs and stabilize price. Therefore, such reforms are essential to ensure sustained low inflation, especially in critical sectors like food and essential goods. That's all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum to Madam Rozia. My name is Amni Wajiha and my ID is SIT 2411004. Today I will be discussing and explain the policy measure the government agencies or non-government organization NGO that could be effective in controlling rising inflation in Malaysia. I will explain some of the key policy measures taken by the Malaysian government and Bank Negara Malaysia (BNM) in 2025 to help control rising inflation in the country. These actions were meant to support the public and reduce the impact of higher living costs. Targeted fuel subsidies from 95. First, the government introduced targeted fuel subsidies for RON 95 petrol. Instead of giving subsidies to everyone, they focused only on people who truly need it. This helped to keep transport costs stable, so price for goods and services don't increase too much. In short, it helps protect the people from price hikes in daily essentials. Slight increase in sales and service tax. The next step is a slight increase in SST. This might sound like it will make things more expensive, but the aim is to increase government revenue. That extra money can be used to support other sectors and help the economy grow. The government has plans to make sure this tax increase doesn't burden the people too much. Change to their sales subsidies. For example, For diesel, even though price went up by 20.1%, the overall inflation rate was kept low at just 1.9% in Q3 2025. This is because the government enforced strict control and didn't allow business to take advantage by raising price too high. So the diesel subsidies change helped reduce the overall effect on inflation. Rise in minimum wage. Lastly, the government increased the minimum wage in the 2025 budget. This gives workers more income, which means they can spend more. That helps our economy recover faster. Even when higher wages, Bank Negara believes it won't cause a big rise in inflation, which is a good balance between growth and stability. In conclusion, these four steps, full subsidies, SST adjustment, diesel subsidy change, and higher minimum wage all work together to manage inflation without putting too much pressure on the people. It shows how important it is for both the government and Bank Negara to take careful steps to protect our economy and citizens.